Okay, this is the shot we are trying to recreate today. And this mostly has to do with a lot of tracking and recreating the scene. So let's get to it. In Blender, let's go to our motion tracking tab. So +sign VFX motion tracking. Bring this up. Now let's drop in our background video. If you want access to this video and every other video that I used in this challenge, the link will be in the description. Now click set scene frames. You see we are now at 240 frames. Then prefetch. Now at frame 1, click detect features. Let's come here and reduce this threshold so we have more features on the floor. Yeah, now let's track forward. Now at the last frame, let's detect features again, and this time let's track backward. Cool. Alt D to clear out these red squares, and then let's bring this up and do a quick clean of this graph by deleting these stray markers. So just click on them and X to delete until you have something that looks kind of neat. Let's bring this down. Go to solve and hit solve camera motion. Now let's go to clean up. We have a 4.5 pixel solve error. Now let's go to clean up and select clean tracks. And let's bring this up till you have a few of the track markers selected, and X to delete. Now let's solve the camera motion again. And let's just repeat that process a couple more times. Okay, after doing that a couple times, we now have a 0.73. Now let's refine focal length and optical center and solve camera motion again. Now we have a 0.4. Now let's refine radial distortion and solve the camera again. Now we have a 0.15. Let's come over here where we have these markers on the floor and select 3 of them, 1, 2, 3, and hit setup tracking scene and floor. Now let's bring this down. Let's come to output and change this around so it's 1080 by 1920. Now click on this and hit set scale. Now let's scroll through to make sure our object is actually stuck to the footage. Good, let's go to layout now. Go in our camera view. Let me make this ground invisible for a sec, and let's bring this on the x-axis forward and bring it on the y-axis this way. Let's rotate it, and now let's hit play. Yeah, it's a pretty alright track. I don't know, it's not the best track I've ever seen, but still, it still does the job. So let's get to recreating this scene. So let's bring back our ground. Let's rotate it this way, and let's basically try to align it with this side. So just line it up here, rotate it, and line it up with the edge here. Now scale it SYY. And bring it on GYY. So we have this part here. Let's go into edit mode, GZ1 for the cube. So it's lining up on top of the ground. Yeah, it's well tracked. It's well tracked to the scene. Now let's click on this edge right here. Extrude it up on the Z-axis right here. And then extrude it on the X axis. Yeah, so this is going to be like the second platform. Now let's go into wireframe mode. Let's go in edit mode, add a loop cut and drag it somewhere here. And then click on this edge right here and just slide it till we align it with this pavement here. So we can add another loop cut around here and do the same, slide it around here. So we basically have this pavement. So let's do it one more time. Bring it here, take this one, bring it here. Yeah, so we basically have our main ground and then this pavement here. So when we have our shadows, they can deform properly. So next thing we want to do, let's add a cylinder, mesh cylinder. Let's do a GZ1 in edit mode so it's flat on the floor here. Now let's take this one back this way and make sure it's right on top of this one. Now go back to wireframe mode. Let's scale this, Shift Z. So scale it like this. Now let's take it on the X-axis, then on the Y-axis. And let's try to match where the bottom of our pole is here. So bring it on the X, so it lines up, then scale it on the S, then hit S to scale. And try to just line up the bottom. Yeah. Now let's go into edit mode, select the top face, and then let's move this up. So just grab it and drag it to the top here. Try and make sure it aligns properly. Let's scale it a bit, yeah. So now we have our cylinder. Let's select the bottom face and also scale it a little bit. Yeah, now we have this track to the scene. So we could use this as a shadow catcher, we could use it as a rigid body. We can basically mess with this pole in our shot right now. So come out of edit mode, shift right click to click on the pole, and then let's add a cube. And basically just try to align the cube to the pole. Bring it here, somewhere in the middle, and scale it on the Y-axis so it's compressed, so it's a little bit, yeah, like this. Let's rotate it on the X a bit. Let's move it on the Y, and let's scale it on the Z. Now we are not comparing with our reference yet until we go into the camera view. Now let's enter the camera view and RZ minus 90. Yeah, now let's adjust this. RY, straighten it up. Let's bring it on the X axis. I think this is fine. Let's also adjust this. Bring it in the middle. Now let's go back to the camera view and adjust it from here. So let's make sure the bottom is matching. So go into wireframe view, bring this here, bring this around here. So let's match this edge here. Yeah. And let's go into edit mode, select the edge select this edge and bring it on the Z axis, and select this face at the top and bring it here. Yeah, then bring it up on the Z axis. And using edge select, you can line up this one and line up this one on this side and line up this one on the other side. Yeah, so we basically have this on top. So let's go out of edit mode. Make sure you're looking at different perspectives. Let's make sure it's looking good here. You don't want it intersecting with the pole, so let's bring it forward a bit. Or instead, let's go into edit mode, click on this back face and bring the entire thing forward. Yeah. Cool. Now this pole is going to be a shadow catcher, but this board here, we're going to just replace it and put whatever we want on top of it. Now let's go into wireframe mode and just confirm that everything is still aligned. You can bring this down. Yeah, cool. If you're a 3D artist or a 3D animator, or maybe you're just interested in creating product VFX videos like this, I'm putting together a course where I go through my entire process. I mean, from filming, how to shoot these background videos, what to look out for. I just did a 30-day VFX challenge, so trust me, I know what to look out for. We're going to talk about coming up with ideas, compositing, color grading, and those extra little things that make your videos pop. I see a lot of people that know the general principles for creating videos like this, but the output is not that given. So I'm going to be sharing with you the fastest workflow, and trust me when I say fastest, process. I know what I'm saying. I did this thing every single day for 30 days, from shooting to animating to rendering, color grading, sound design and all that. And even if you're a complete beginner, if you have no idea how to use Blender, I'm going to have a absolute beginner section of the course where I break down some of the tools and how to move around in the software. So if you think it's time for you to dive deeper into this product CGI VFX space, the link will be in the description. Let's get back to the video. Now, depending on how many things you want to interact with, so this pole, for example, we are definitely interacting with it. If you are good at modeling, you could try and model this thing here. You could also do this one, and you could also do this pole. You could do this side. So depending on how much time you want to spend on this, I think I spent quite some time on this. So I modeled this, I modeled the pole, I modeled all this circle here. You could even model these railings and have a lot of interaction. So it depends on the idea. So in this tutorial, I think let's just interact with this pole, interact with this round things here and this one here. So let's add a cylinder. Let's rotate it on the y-axis by 90 degrees, and let's scale it on the x-axis till it's almost flat, even flatter than that. Yeah. Now let's bring it down. Make sure this is behind the pole right here. Then let's try and align it with these circles here. So scale it down, bring it up, bring it here, scale this up a bit and align it properly. Make sure you're covering the edges, or you're aligning it exactly with the edges. Cool, now let's shift D, duplicate it and bring it down here. Cool, now we have our two circles, the circle tracked, and we have our cylinder, we have this, we have a bunch of stuff in the scene. So let's add a new cube, and then in edit mode GZ1 to bring it on the floor, and then let's bring it back here. Let's scale it down, let's rotate it on the Z axis, go to our wireframe mode and bring it back on the X axis and then on the Y axis, and just try to align it with the front of this floor. Okay, let's rotate this way and let's scale it on the X axis. SX, and make sure this edge aligns here. GXX, GYY, RZ, GXX. So you want to align this edge, yeah. So let's go into edit mode, click on the back face and do a GXX to bring it back. Let's also rotate it a bit, it's not yet fully aligned, yeah. And bring it on the Y axis. Cool. Now let's go to edit mode, grab the top and drag it to the top here. And also drag it on the GYY axis. So this lines up here. And click on this face over here. And then GYY. So it lines up with this one here. Yeah, so we can click on this edge select this particular edge and bring it down so it slants. Click on this edge and bring it up. So we can select this back face again and just try to align it as much as possible. So G, X, X, yeah. Now we basically have this cube over here. Okay, let's make our end frame 120. Yeah, so you basically get the gist. You go to the ground and you add in whatever object you want and you just try to align it as much as possible. So here we have it for this guy. Let's turn off our ground and make sure that everything is where they are meant to be. Yeah, lastly, let's do something for this guy here, since this is behind this object. So let's try to recreate this one here. So we can either just eyeball it like we did for this cylinder and this cube here, but a better way to go something that you should consider is to use the motion tracking markers. So you can actually make those markers that we had here. So depending on how many markers are left when you are done with your camera solve, you can actually find each of these markers in the scene. So this is the marker we're looking for, this one right here, because it's positioned right where this cube is meant to be. So to do that, let's go back to layout and come here, just drop down and hit motion tracking so you can see this marker. Yeah, so let's click on the marker and then Shift S and select cursor to selected, then Shift A and add a cube, and go in edit mode, GZ1, and then scale the cube down. So you're trying to just align it with this. So let's rotate it on this axis. Let's go into the wireframe view. Let's bring it here, rotate it on the Z axis, bring it here. Just try to align it, this exact point with this exact point. So G, Y, Y. Yeah, I think it's aligned. And then for the back, let's select this back face. And let's bring it on the G, Y, Y axis. So we have here aligned. Now for this other side, let's click on this face, on this side, and let's bring it on the GXX. Yeah, so we have this side aligned. Now what's left is the top. So click on the top face, drag it up. So I think it ends somewhere here, and then move it on the GXX. So we can align it here. So yeah, we have practically created this cube. As you can see, it's perfectly attached to the metal structure. So let's just Shift D, YY to move it back and align the second one here. So GXX, GYY. Remember, I don't do any GZ because you move it up and that would mess up the alignments. So just move it on the X and the Y axis when you're aligning it. So I think it's good here, but the back can be bigger. So let's move that back, GXX, GYY. And then for the top, click on the top face. Let's bring this one up a bit. And then let's bring it here a bit. Yeah. We can bring the back face to the side a bit so it covers the edge. GYY. Yeah, so we have these two cubes. And then for this last one, so I'm not the best at modeling, but let's just try and do something quick for this one. Okay, for this one now, I don't think we have any markers here to show us where this thing is. So we can either go in the motion tracking tab to add a marker so we can know where to model from, or we can just eyeball it, you know. Let's add a cube here, scale it down, go to top view, and try to just align it with these two. Rotate it this way, SXX, and bring it down here, rotate it even more, scale it a bit, bring it here. Just try to put it in front of these two. Yeah, so let's see that in the camera view. Okay, it's on the wrong side. It should be on the other side. Let's bring it over here. Now let's see that. Go to wireframe view. And then let's just try our best to match this. So we can bring this up. We can bring this one on the XX axis. E to extrude till it gets here. And let's click on this face over here, GXX, to bring it in, and then E to extrude. So let's go into the top view. Let's try to move this like this. I'm just trying to make a rough version of this. Since it's going to be a shadow catcher, it doesn't have to have the exact details. You don't have to have these nuts and bolts in here, but it should tally at least a bit. So let me just bring this down, just scale it. Yeah, so we have something like this. So for this one at the back, let's click on this face, and then let's bring it on the x-axis and bring it down a bit. Yeah, so this is not the most accurate representation of this geometry, but then you can spend more time making it fit exactly. For example, you can make this pointy edges to curve a bit and connect it a little bit better. Like you can bring this vertex around here and bring this one around here. Add a loop cut and bring this one around here. Add another loop cut and bring this one around here. So you can just put in as many details as you would want, just to get a good view of what the mesh looks like. We are going to use it as just a shadow catcher. Now that we have this, I think all we have to do is to just focus on the actual animation. Now you don't have to do the same exact concept I'm doing. Now we have the signpost, we have this cube thing here. You could mess with whatever you want. These things are here for you to interact. We have the ground. Where's the ground? Let's see it. We have our ground, we have this. So you could hit a ball on this sign and it bounces on this and drops on the ground and then falls down. It gives you that extra layer of realism. So let's click on our camera and go to background images and increase the opacity so you can see it a lot better. Yeah, this is good. Cool. Now let's add an Olympic ring. So Shift A and go to Mesh, Torus. Now let's click on this, Add Torus, and then reduce the minor radius so we have something like this. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's right click and shade smooth. So we have one Olympic ring. So what I did basically is to just take this ring and make it interact with the entire scene. For example, let's bring this one here. And this was a last minute idea I actually came up with. This was not the original plan. So let's just bring this here. And then let's Shift D to bring it here and rotate it on the y-axis and bring it down here, then around here. So you're basically just trying to interact with all the geometry, and you will see how it looks when you're done with all this hard work, especially if you put in a lot of work modeling and recreating these things. It's going to look super cool. So let's take one here and Shift D and bring it here, make it bigger, make it surround this guy here. Is that even possible? Let's make sure there's enough space. Okay, yeah, it works. Okay, let's bring this down a bit, bring another one up. Yeah, so I think this is enough interaction for this. Okay, we can put one more. Can bring this one up here. Yeah. Yeah. Cool, now I have a bunch of rings everywhere. So depending on you, I'm trying not to do something different in the tutorial. Whenever I'm making these tutorials, I'm tempted to just add something extra. But then people will say I'm not teaching you exactly what I did. So you could make this a rigid body and make this just fall and hang around it. You could make this just interact with the actual pole and we should see some physics. But then that's not what I did in my video. I just added a little bit of rotation animation. So let's do that here. Let's click on this, hit N, hit I over rotation, then go to the last frame and rotate it a little bit, just a little bit. Then hit I again. Then come here T. Then do something similar for this. Let's add a rotation keyframe here. Then we could rotate this a bit. Make sure they're not intersecting. Add another rotation keyframe here. So let's see how that looks. Yeah, basically having a little bit of rotation. So we could do the same thing for each and every one of them. Add a keyframe in the beginning and add another keyframe at the end. Okay, this is how it's looking now. Now when you have added animations to every one of them, just select every one towards 1 to 7 and then come to your timeline. A to select all the keyframes, T, and then linear. So they move at a constant speed. Yeah. Now for the sign, let's click on the sign. Let's go to shading. Let's go to edit mode, face select this face, and then add a new material, add another new material, and assign this face to this one. So this new material is going to have the add or whatever I want on it, then Ctrl I to invert the selection, and then this other material will have the first one. So let's make the first one black. Yeah, so it's black all around and the front is more like this. So I got an image of the Olympic logo. For the second material, connect the color to base color. Now we want to hit Ctrl A to apply the scale of this, and then edit mode, U, and unwrap. Now let's go to UV editor here, select all and scale this up and bring it over here. Yeah, and we have something like this already. So let's go into the material view, and also let's quickly create materials for each of these things. For example, this should have a metallic shiny black material, so new material, make it black, not that black, make it metallic and make it shiny, so bring down the roughness. So let's make this not so black and just try to match it with what you see in the background. Yeah, and then for these ones are, they're also metallic but they're not shiny, so let's bring this up. Yeah, they're quite gray. Let's bring this color up. Yeah, and then give this one the same material 4. Cool. What is left? This guy is okay. Is that a green? I think that's kind of a greenish yellow. So increase metallic a bit, add the greenish yellow ish material, make it dark, a lot darker, something like this. Yeah, it's actually this dark. It's the reflection of the sun that makes it look bright. It's actually dark like this. Yeah. So what else? Okay, this one is yellow, the metallic yellow. So new material, make it very yellow, make it metallic, and increase the roughness a bit. So something like that. Yeah. In edit mode, we can go to edge select this middle edge, and then bring it in. So G, Y, Y. Yes, to create that kind of, and this one too, G, Y, Y. Yeah, to create that bulge in. Yeah, something like that. So for these ones, these are white, so let's just make them white. Yeah, I think just increase the brightness a bit. And for this, give it the same material 7. Yeah, so before we do the main effect, let's go into render, go to cycles, And then it was in the evening, so let's add an environment texture. Open. I want to use this future parking. Let's go to film and transparent. Now you can see from where I'm standing, you can see where the shadow is facing. It's facing backwards. So let's bring in our ground. Let's turn off the shadow catcher so we can see our shadows. Let's also delete this background collection. Yeah, so we want this to be facing the other way. So go to shading, change this from objects to world, Ctrl T. Make sure you have Node Wrangler add-on enabled so you can do this. Change it back to object, go back to layout, then come to world here, then vector, then rotate on the z-axis. So we have this facing back. Yeah. You can turn on our shadow catcher back for the floor. Oh, before we do that, let's change the color of the floor. Imagine I forgot that. Make it more of gray. You add some yellow into it so it matches more of this ground. Let's add a little bit more yellow. Yeah. It shouldn't be reflective, so increase the roughness. Cool. Now let's go to object and make this a shadow catcher. Now let's go to world and rotate this so it follows where my shadow here and also where this shadow is. So rotate it until we have something like this. Yeah, it's perfect. This is perfect. You can see we can see we already cast the shadow of this. Yeah, we're casting the shadow of this ring on top of our sign here, and we're also casting it on top of this guy here. And also, yeah, for this one, we should make this guy a shadow catcher. We should make this pole a shadow catcher. So go to Object and turn on shadow catcher. And this guy, let's make this guy brighter. Let's add more brightness. Let's compare it to the reference. Let's reduce the saturation. Yeah, looks more accurate now. And let's make this a shadow catcher. What else needs to be a shadow catcher? This guy should also be a shadow catcher. Let's compare it to the reference. It's too saturated, so reduce the saturation of the yellow. Yeah, increase the brightness and make this a shadow catcher. Now that I've made it a shadow catcher, you can see the shadow of the rings are now casted on top of this. Yeah. Now depending on the detail you put into your model, it will catch the shadows more accurately. So because of these edges that I pulled in, you can see that the shadows are bending here. So what else can we do? Okay, for this one, let's also turn on shadow catcher. Yeah, and for this one too, let's also turn on shadow catcher. So this shouldn't cast a shadow, it should just be a shadow catcher. So turn off shadow under ray visibility. Yeah, we don't need these guys to cast shadows. We already have the actual shadows on the floor. So they just need to catch the shadows like this. You can see the shadows of the ring on top of it. Now let's create our actual Olympic rings. So let's take this one here, duplicate it and bring it forward. Let's Alt R to clear all the rotations, clear keyframes. Then R, X, Y, 90. Let's see how this looks in front of the camera. Okay, cool. Now let's just make our Olympic logo. So if I hit 3, Ctrl 3, we can Shift D to bring this here. Let's turn on material view so we can see a reference. Yeah, so we can bring this here. Can bring this here. Cool. Then for those other two, Shift D and bring this one here. And this one here. Yeah, so we have a basic Olympic Olympic ring. So let's go into material, make this one blue, a quick blue material. Okay, maybe not that blue. Let's make this one black. Not completely black though. Let's make this one red. Let's make this one yellow. Let's make this one green. Yeah, so we have the Olympic logo. Okay, maybe I would scale this here a bit so you can see more of these. Scale this one here a bit. And this one's too a bit on the x-axis. Yeah. So what I did, this is exactly what I did. I took this and I joined them together. So Ctrl J to make it one object. Then I brought it back and I basically lined it up with the ones here. Oh, let's also do a object set origin geometry. Yeah, then line it up with what we have here. So make it smaller, bring it here, and just rotate it. And just make sure it's kind of lined up. Then I brought it inside. Yeah, that's what I did. So I started from in here. So at frame 1, go to frame 1 and hit a rotation and a location keyframe. And then at the last frame, let's bring it outwards and closer to the camera. So a lot closer. Yeah, like right in front of the camera. So it takes the entire space. Yeah, something like this. Yeah, perfect. So let's just have it here. Now let's hit I and I. Cool. Now what we should do also at this last frame, okay, let's see how it looks first of all. So it just comes out. Yeah, okay, what we want to do at this last frame, let's add 360 to this number, so plus 360. In case you didn't know, we could do math in Blender. So it adds it, and let's replace single keyframe. Now it's going to rotate on its way out. Yeah. Also, the last thing I did when it comes to the animation of this, go into your graph editor, Shift F6, and for each of these things here, let's make the rest invisible, just one. For each of them, okay, X and Y doesn't have animation on them, so let's clear single keyframes here. So for this 4, let's go to the first one. Let's mess with the graph editor and just bring it here like this. So it pops out of the screen. It doesn't just flow out. And this too. And finally for the Z location. So let's see what that looks like. Yeah, exactly how I want it. Cool. Now, this was something I discovered by sheer chance. What I did here was, since they all have the animation, I now went into edit mode, make sure everything is selected, then I hit P to separate by loose parts. Now they are now individual objects that can operate on their own, as you can see, but then they are still moving together. So all I had to do here was to just start from the first one, this one, leave it the way it is. Then for this one, let's turn on all of these keyframes. So for this one, let's go to the first frame, the first keyframe of everything, this, and move it by say 10 frames. So 5 frames, GX5. So they don't come out at the same time. First one comes and the second one comes, as you can see. Yeah, well, you know they will all end up at the same point. So let's do it for the second one. So this one, make sure everything is visible. Click on just the first frames, all of them, then GX10. Then for this one, let's repeat that. Make sure everything is visible. Select the first set, GX15. Then for this one, make sure everything is visible. Select this, GX20. Now we know they will all end up at the same point, but we are going to start them out separately. That's basically how I made this effect. Yeah, so it was not anything super fancy or complex. I just reverse engineered this entire process. So let's see it in the material view. Cool, let's delete this cube now. Let's change the colors of these rings. So let's make this one blue. Let's make this one black. Let's make this one red. Let's make this one yellow. Make this one green. Then the same thing here. Blue, black, red. Cool, I think we've covered all of them. Now let's go to the rendered view and take a look at it. Now you have your shot. Now if we press play, you can see everything is working smoothly. We have our shadows working on the floor. We have the shadows of each of these rings interacting with both the objects and the ground. This is also interacting with the object. You can see the shadows on it. Same thing with this guy interacting here. So yeah, that is how I created this shot. Hope you enjoyed this. If you want to get my exact blend file that I use for the project, the link will be in the description. If you want to get this background video, the link will also be in the description. I'll see you in the next one.